In this area of the museum, we have a lot of handicrafts. We have things like cradle boards, we have things like pottery, we have ladles, we have a lot of baskets, we have rattles, we have drums. So for anybody coming to visit, there's stories behind all of these things. There's reasons why we had cradle boards. There's methods of making clay pottery. There's methods of making baskets. Every one of them has some significant meaning for our culture. The drums have a whole story, and so do the rattles. We have Gastoas in this area, which is really important in our culture to understand that we don't wear the Western style headdress. We wear Gastoas. We have a canoe in this area that's approximately 350 years old, which has its own story on how it was acquired and where it came from. On this side of the room we have the Confederacy Council set up, and we have the town set up. So those are two different ways of doing things, and it's a really interesting thing to have to find out about. We have the two-row wampum belt in the back corner over here, and that has a whole story on how it came into being and how we set that up with the Dutch, and how that wampum belt was continually used from way back then till now. People still will refer to the two-row wampum belt. In other parts of the museum we have things like lacrosse sticks, the one I'm holding. There's stories with that. There's a medicine game that goes with lacrosse sticks. Information boards on that side of the museum that have stories about the Oka crisis, which is a long story, and you have to study that one a little longer. If you know the story of Kahnawake, where the name came from, it means by the rapids. And when they put the seaway in, it moved us away from the rapids, so we are no longer by the rapids. That has a whole story that goes into that. Also on this side of the museum, we have a whole section set up on ironworking, which is one of the main jobs or professions that have been ongoing for like a century now. And it talks about the Quebec Bridge, how it fell and how important that was to our culture. It also changed the way of life of Kahnawake, basically, that when that bridge fell, because 33 men died, and the women decided that then that men could no longer work on one job, and so men had to leave town and go look for jobs all around the northeast of the United States. So once that happened, we started going to the United States, and Kahnawake became more English speaking, and stuff like this happened. So a lot of the culture changed because of that bridge. The Twin Towers, there's a whole display on the Twin Towers. There are a few other displays set up that need a little bit more time to be explained. There's one that's the creation story. And since we have an oral history, the creation story changes all the time. You should look into the creation story before you come here so you have an idea what it is, and maybe someone here can explain it to you from the Kahnawake version or from their own version. So it's also good to know. There's this display showing the council chiefs of the Grand Council. There's a display showing the clothing. So there's a lot of stuff in this cultural center. It's a small museum, but with time, if you have the time, you can spend a good hour, 2 hours in here, especially if you take your time to understand everything that's in here.